And joining me now is, we're going to turn to the ongoing protests in Iran, as a matter of fact, where more than 3,000 are reportedly dead. Here now in studio is Amir Korangy, the publisher and founder of The Real Deal. He's also a professor at Columbia University. We want to thank you very much for joining us today. All right, so we've got the deployment of this U.S. carrier, right? So the U.S. carrier strike group is heading towards the Middle East with the withdrawals of some U.S. forces from bases in the Middle East. What does that tell us about the strategy at this point? How do you see it?
Well, I think America is trying to show those protesters that they are making actions, that they are making moves. When President Trump went on TV and very sort of casually said, go back and take your institutions, the Iranian protesters took that to be a real thing, and it gave them a lot of encouragement. But right now, the problem in Iran is that you have two entities. You have the Iranian regime and the people. And the Iranian regime is not only fighting for power, but it's fighting for its life, because they know if they lose the power, they will be held accountable by the firing squad. And the same for the protesters. You know, the problem is that this is not the first time there's been an uprising in Iran. This is the 6th uprising. And each time it seemed like it was existential and something was going to definitely happen. This regime has a lot of experience with tactical fear and the ability to tamper down protesters and the ability to shut down these sort of movements. And the other issue with the revolution, if you want to call it, they say that a revolution is if 3 to 5% of the population comes out and protests. And I think you have that if you collectively take all of Iran and all the protests that are happening. People are out there and they're trying to protest. The problem with that is that this is a revolution without a face, right? And you've had faceless revolutions work before. The yellow vests in France, the Arab Spring, and there was a few other ones. But it's very hard to make those sort of movements work without a single ideology or a single person who can come and package that message for you. The Iranians don't have that. And as soon as they do have somebody to get behind, the government is very good, whether they're abroad or in the country, to go and shut them down, whether that's by killing them or by, you know, arresting them and putting them totally out of the picture. And the idea that they've managed to shut down communications in the entire country for several weeks, that tells you all you need to know about what they're doing during these shutdowns. And the president thought that it was a big victory that they didn't do the public executions of that one person or the 800 that they were trying to publicly execute. But the fact of the matter is that they're killing thousands of people while the cameras are shut off.
Right. I mean, it's hard to get a grip on what's going on when we've got those types of shutdowns. So what are the real viable ideas for striking Iran at this point and the potential consequences? You talked about some of it, but what are the ones that could work? Well,
you know, it's in the past, you know, when Iran was in its original revolution, when the Islamic revolution came and took power, there was multiple revolutions happening at the time. There was a lot of people who were unhappy with the Shah. There was the women's revolution. There were the communists who were revolting, and of course the Islamists and other people who were revolting. And there was disarray, and you didn't know who was going to come and take charge. When Iraq thought that it was a good time to approach Iran and invade Iran, all of those revolutions, those factions sort of united to fight Iraq. And the idea of like having foreign boots in Iran, Iranians are very proud people. They have a long history, long culture. And the idea of foreign invaders coming into the country might unite people against that single common enemy, which is not great. Ideally, you would have somebody from the inside of Iran who would step up and people can get behind, and then you could support that person financially, with arms and anything else that you need to do. But that, you don't have that, there's no face for that. The only person that you have is an exiled monarch who's never really done anything over the last 47 years. His father was not some martyr that, you know, died fighting to keep control. He left the country with bags of money. Whether he was a good guy or a bad guy, I don't know. But the fact is, not being in the country, not starting any sort of foundations or organizations for Iranians in Iran over the course of the last 47 years, and just stepping up now and trying to, you know, they're saying that he's the face, he could be the person that go back. It's just not viable. You know?
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.